Good afternoon. This is Blake from the Red Bank Church of Christ. Just wanted to bring a few thoughts from the His Life devotional. This week is wrapping up our discussion on the resurrection, and this last one is entitled "An Undeniable Fact." And I think that's a pretty good description for the resurrection. Of course, there's a lot of people out there trying to claim that the resurrection wasn't real. It's very hard to claim that Jesus wasn't a real historical figure, um, even though some try to do that. But all attempts there kind of fail. But um, there's a lot who claim that this resurrection is just too much, right? They're like, I can give you Jesus. He's a real person, but the idea that he rose from the dead is just that's too much. That's going a step too far. And I would agree. It's something that's definitely not normal. Something that is hard to wrap our minds around. Um, but we have overwhelming evidence of the fact that this did happen, and of course there's a whole religion built on the idea that it wasn't really Jesus who went to the cross. Somebody else took his place, and then Jesus came a few days later and was like, "Yes, I rose from the dead." But that doesn't hold up very well because you have Mary, Jesus's mother, sitting at the foot of the cross, staring at her son, and having a conversation with him in John, and it's hard to believe that she can't recognize her son. And then of course maybe they'll say, well, she was in on the plot, right? Um, but it's hard to believe that this crowd of Jews who was eager in John to crucify Jesus, got the wrong person. They knew who Jesus was. They knew who they wanted to kill, and when they presented Jesus to Pilate in the trials, to Caiaphas, and when they inevitably convinced them to to crucify Jesus, I don't think they got the wrong person. That is very hard to believe that they that this group who is following Jesus around his whole ministry, trying to kill him, finally get to the end and kill the wrong person. So there's just a lot of inconsistency there. But then you have this idea of how many people saw Jesus after the resurrection. Uh, it was Jesus on the cross. He died on the cross. You have a spear going through his side. Um, all this, these bits and pieces that show us that it was Jesus who carried his cross um, to that hill and was died on that cross and then rose from the dead, and people saw that, and not only saw the death but saw him after the resurrection. And that's a large part of how this gospel spread like wildfire in the book of Acts. And it just it blows up this idea about Christ, and all because of they saw who Jesus was, what Jesus did, and they just couldn't hold it back. Right there was no way they couldn't go and tell others about who this Jesus was and what he did. And I think I think that more than anything, it scares us a little bit because then we kind of know what our role is too. If we truly believe that Jesus died and rose from the dead, um, he did, I fully believe he did. Um, then that puts a lot of weight on my shoulder of knowing that I can't just keep this to myself, right? Because especially of what this death means, what this resurrection means, that we have a chance of life with Him even after death. Um, that's not something I can just hold in and keep to myself. Uh, and he writes at the end of his devo, says, "Today we'll research the death of Christians beginning in Acts, and thank God for their resolute certainty in this risen Christ." And so you have a whole host of people all throughout history, and especially in Acts, who were so convinced and so moved by the story of what Jesus did, that they even put their life on the line to show others um, what the truth behind it and what it meant. And just as Jesus said earlier in his ministry about, if anybody wants to follow me, he has to pick up his cross and follow me. We have to be prepared, like in the last Devo, if you were reading yesterday, to die to ourselves. Part of us has to go if we're going to truly follow Jesus. And so there's no doubt that Jesus died and rose from the dead. If you're into podcasts, Abdu Murray, the Defense Rest podcast, it's amazing. Go and listen to it. He takes different objections to the resurrection accounts and the resurrection story, and kind of shows how defensible they are, and kind of does it in a courtroom setting. So it's pretty cool. It's a good podcast. And there are a few books you can grab. I'm trying to look up. I don't think I have one right now, but a few books you can read about that. But I don't think many of us, especially in the church, are going to struggle with this idea of, did Jesus raise from the dead, but struggle with what that means for us. And if Jesus did die on the cross and rise again, then that means we can put our trust in him. But putting our trust in him isn't just keeping it to ourselves or sitting back in our chair, but it's denying ourselves, dying to ourselves so that we can live with him. And when we have that life, it has to spread. It's not something we can keep in, but it's something that we have to give out, just as Jesus did. So as we finish up this week and go into this weekend and into the holiday season, it's all about giving, right? It's all about joy and happiness, and that's awesome. But may we never forget where true joy and true happiness comes from. Hope you guys have an amazing weekend, and we hope to see you soon. Bye.